Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism. It's a really powerful philosophy for taking back our focus in a world that, let's be honest, is always screaming for our attention. Let's start with this quote because I think it just hits home for so many of us. It's the title of an essay by Andrew Sullivan, and it perfectly captures that modern feeling, that sense that the constant digital noise has kind of turned us into these frantic, information-addicted zombies. But here's the thing. This feeling of being totally overwhelmed, this isn't what any of us actually signed up for. The digital world we just sort of stumbled into started with much, much simpler promises. I mean, really think back for a second. When Facebook first came out, it was just this little novelty, right? A way to see who was in your classes. And the first iPhone, Steve Jobs literally said its killer app was making phone calls. We brought these things into our lives for these tiny, almost insignificant reasons, and then we woke up one day and realized they'd completely taken over. So this is the key point. The problem isn't that these tools are useless. Of course they're not. They can be incredibly helpful. The real issue, the thing that makes us so uneasy, is that creeping feeling that we've lost control, that we're not really in charge of our own attention anymore. And this is where the story takes a turn, because this loss of control we all feel, well, it turns out it's not an accident. It's a business plan. Bill Maher really just says it outright here, doesn't he? There is a massive, incredibly profitable industry built on one thing: capturing our attention and selling it. And that comparison to tobacco farmers, he's not just saying that to be shocking. It points to a deliberate strategy to engineer addiction. And we know this is true because people from inside these companies have come out and told us. Tristan Harris, who used to be a product philosopher at Google, famously warned that these companies are in a race to the bottom of the brainstem, using an entire playbook of psychological tricks to hijack our minds. So what Harris is talking about is the intentional creation of what's called a behavioral addiction. Now, unlike a substance addiction, you don't need a chemical. All you need is a behavior that gives you a little reward. And our digital tools, man, they are perfectly designed to do this, mostly by using two incredibly powerful psychological hooks. All right, so hook number one. This is the engine that drives so much of our compulsive checking. It basically turns our phones into little slot machines that we carry around in our pockets. See, there's a scientific name for this: intermittent positive reinforcement. And psychologists have known for decades that when rewards are unpredictable, they become ridiculously compelling. Every single time you post something or you pull down to refresh your feed, you are pulling the lever on that slot machine. Will I get likes? Will I get comments? Will I see something new and interesting? It's the not knowing that keeps you coming back again and again and again. So that's the first hook. The second one, though, it goes even deeper. It taps into one of the most fundamental parts of our evolutionary wiring. As human beings, we are social creatures. Our brains are hardwired to want approval from our tribe because for thousands of years, our very survival depended on it. And tech companies play on this vulnerability brilliantly. So when you get a notification that someone tagged you in a photo, your ancient Paleolithic brain doesn't just see a notification. It sees a sign of social connection, of approval. And that makes it almost impossible to ignore. So let's just be really, really clear about this. This is not about you having a lack of willpower. You are fighting a completely lopsided arms race against thousands of the smartest engineers in the world, backed by billions of dollars, all laser-focused on one single goal: capturing and holding your attention. So what in the world do we do about it? Well, to fight back, we're going to need more than just a few tips and tricks or life hacks. We need a real, solid philosophy to guide our whole relationship with technology. And this is it. This is the core idea of digital minimalism. It completely flips the script. Instead of starting with all the cool new tech and asking, hey, what can this do for me? You start with your values. You start with what's truly important to you in your life. And then you ask a very simple, very tough question. Is this technology the best way to support the things I care about? This whole philosophy is really built on three simple but really powerful principles, and each one is designed to help you put your values back in the driver's seat. These three ideas, they all work together and they form the foundation for this whole minimalist approach. So let's break down what each one actually means. And this quote from Thoreau just nails the first principle. He reminds us that the real cost of any app, any service, any website, it isn't money. It's the amount of your life you have to trade for it. All that digital clutter with its endless little pings and notifications, it costs us our one truly finite resource, our time and our attention. The second principle says that just choosing to use a tool isn't enough. You have to be deliberate about how you use it. A perfect example is deleting social media apps off your phone. You're not cutting yourself off completely. You can still log on with a computer. But what you're doing is eliminating all the low-value compulsive checking that just eats away at your focus in your day. And finally, we have the third principle. And it turns out there is a deep, genuine satisfaction that comes from just being intentional. And we can actually learn a lot about this from a pretty surprising source, the so-called Amish hacker. Yeah, this totally gets rid of a common myth. The Amish don't just reject all technology. No, they are masters of being intentional. They start with what they value most, their community, their family, their faith, and then they ruthlessly ask if a new piece of technology helps or hurts those things. They're making a bet that the deep satisfaction of living an intentional life is worth way more than any minor convenience they might have to give up. And that right there, that's the final crucial question that digital minimalism leaves us with. It forces us to look at our digital lives and confront the true cost of all our clutter. It asks us to really think, with such a finite amount of life to spend, are we absolutely sure we're exchanging it for the things that truly matter?